Sharpen those skates and tape up your stick. Today we're taking a look at ice hockey on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Released in 1988, it has the distinction of being the first hockey game for the NES. Even though the console was released as early as 1983 in Japan, it would take 5 years before the sport was represented on Nintendo's library. This game also happened to be the first director position for Hideki Kono, who would go on to helm other Nintendo classics such as Super Mario Kart, Yoshi's Island, and Luigi's Mansion. Before all that though, let's see how well this hockey game can measure up to this Canadian's scrutiny. The game goes straight into the title screen where you can choose either a 1 or 2 player game. After choosing, you get to set some options for the game. First, you have to pick a team for each side, choosing between the USA, Sweden, Poland, Canada, the USSR, and Czechoslovakia. They all play the same, so you can just pick your favorite. Once that's squared away, you select a game speed between 1 and 5, 1 being the slowest and 5 being the fastest. And finally, you can choose how long each period lasts between 7, 10, or 15 minutes each, although the in-game clock does seem to count down faster than real life. Moving on to the next screen, you have 4 skaters plus a goalie. You can change your players' positions and choose their body builds between average, light, or heavy. The average build has middling stats all throughout, whereas the light build can skate faster and is better at face-offs. The trade-off though is that their shot is weak, as is their ability to body check. They get taken down really easy too if the opponent manages to catch up to them. As for the heavy build, they're basically the opposite of the light build. They shoot and body check the best, as well as fend off body checks from opponents. But they skate at a snail's pace and can't take face-offs very well. It's a good idea to balance out your team selections and not have all of the same build, so that you can take advantage of each build's strengths. Just like real hockey, there's 3 periods to play through, both teams switching sides each period, the goal being to get the puck into the opposing team's net to score, and ending the game with the higher score. Both sides have to fend off body checks, control the puck as much as possible, and fire it past the opposing goaltender. Some rules do get enforced, such as icing, which is passing the puck to one of your players over the opponent's blue line into the offensive zone. You have to carry the puck over yourself or else the play gets whistled dead and a face-off occurs near your net. Skaters can also get into little puck battles, and if it continues going for a period of time, it turns into a fight, which then turns into an entire line brawl. Eventually, the referee gets tired of it and sends the instigating player to the penalty box, thus giving the other team a power play. For those who don't know, a power play is just having a full set of players while the opponent is short 1 skater for a small period of time. Okay, Canadian politeness time over. After replaying this game for a review, I cannot for the life of me figure out why this game is so highly revered. Control choices have me baffled, and your team's AI are as useless as ice blades on concrete. The controls all make sense on paper, but it would have been nice if the controls actually worked. Sometimes I found one of my players in prime position to fire the puck into the open net, but pressing the shoot button yielded them still holding onto the puck. Why aren't you trying to score? Passing the puck was painful. They were either super slow because I made a fast tap for an intended quick up the ice, or having to hold the pass button longer for a faster pass, at which point my teammate is already out of position to receive it. A lot of this is further aggravated by the fact that your D-pad inputs are not just affecting the player you have selected, but also affects all the other teammates, and especially the goalie. I get that this was put in for more control over your team, but what ends up happening is you're trying to get a defender into position, but it ends up opening up your net because the goalie is also moving with that input. It really makes no sense in a fast-paced team game, where players should be more concerned with their own position instead of all moving at the same time in the same direction. Speaking of teammates, once you manage to secure the puck in your defensive zone, the AI teammates cherry pick up the ice and out of the screen. So even if I did decide to pass the puck, it would be such a blind pass. Anyone who knows anything about hockey would also understand you don't just leave one defender behind unsupported. So often would blind passes end up on the opponent's stick because I got overwhelmed by numbers. Playing this game was utterly frustrating, and I was very much ready to stop playing once I got enough footage for this review. The gameplay gets a 4 out of 10. The title screen and menus leading up to the action are all pretty basic, but there's clearly a bit of attention paid to them to make them not look too boring. They get the job done. The design of the players are actually kind of charming and cute, really, and they all have good 1988 pixel representations of hockey poses, from skating strides, slap shots, and even fallen down positions. Also, the goalie shows off that classic 1980s Patrick Waugh pose perfectly while making saves. And it's pretty adorable when you see the Zamboni drivers are also wearing goalie masks, which doesn't make sense, but it's kind of funny. The background didn't need much from it. All the proper hockey markings are there, and we see the score and time in the middle, and the crowd look fine with interspersed head turning to keep them alive. That's all you really need out of a game. But who was the genius that decided that Canada's jersey color was going to be green? Green? Really? The inventors of the sport, and you can't even afford them a hint of their national colors? Red and white? For shame, eh, buddy? The graphics get a 7 out of 10. There's really only one main song that plays during the action of the hockey game, and it's possible that it would maybe sound repetitive after a long listen. However, it seems to get broken up very often with how frequent goals are scored. When goals are scored, there's a triumphant jingle that plays. It's short and sweet, making you smile when it's you who scored, or frown when it's against you. There is another longer tune that plays while you're making setting decisions before the game too. And once again, it's a quick charming loop that serves its purpose well without sticking around too long to be annoying or repetitive. Gameplay sound effects were actually done quite well. There were distinct sounds for passing the puck and shooting it, with the shooting having a lot more punch to it. There were sounds for body checks and puck battles too, which is good because sometimes you wouldn't be able to tell what the heck was going on sometimes. The referee's whistle hits a tone that really matches what it feels like in real life, and the occasional crowd cheer throughout gameplay, and especially when there's a goal, are further nice touches. What I do feel is missing though is a sharp goal horn sound. You can barely hear the goal horn that they have, and it just sounds boring, and nothing like a... The music and sound of ice hockey gets a 7 out of 10. So, despite growing up Canadian, I wasn't too much into hockey when this game came out. Mind you, I was only 4 years old at the time, so there was a lot that I didn't know much about then. One of my older cousins did have ice hockey, and it made its way into the rotation of kids playing games whenever the families got together. I think it was definitely a better time playing against a human player than it was the computer, because at least we both had the disadvantage of the terrible control choices. And even then, I remember the game would get frustrating for both players enough to just decide it's time to swap games pretty quickly. The nostalgia hit gets a 4 out of 10. So this game is probably a good example of nostalgia bias. From what little I remembered from back in the day, I thought the game was going to be decent, and I took that opinion into my recent playthrough. I was shocked at just how bad the controls were, especially after having read the manual ahead of time. It all looked like it would have worked out great on paper, but big issues would just crop up way too often. Any good reviews I've perused afterwards had my head scratching, and just leads me to believe that there's a massive nostalgia bias around the scoring of this game, as I can't see anyone being in love with the gameplay these days. It's too bad the controls were as shoddy as they were, because the visual and audible presentation was done pretty well and appealing. But if gameplay becomes as frustrating as it is in Nintendo's ice hockey, then that's just going to be a game misconduct right there, bud.